we extract those fats and we don't take the vitamin E with them. And that's why these fats become so treacherous, right? Because they're extracted from their whole food source. They're not guarded by the antioxidants that nature has packaged with them to protect them.
Where does like oil play a role in like inflammation? I feel like we talked about like canola oil and things like that not being great for inflammation, um, and like potentially causing inflammation. Am I wrong there? Or is that
It depends on where you look. Like some studies will, there are many studies that have actually like randomized control trials that will do like these feedings of these kinds of oils and not see an acute inflammatory effect. But the problem is in the real world, a lot of these oils are very delicate in their in nature, in their chemical composition, specifically, and are made of a kind of fatty acid, um, a sort of category of fatty acids called polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are very delicate and damage prone because they have multiple double bonds.
Mhm.
Double bonds are easily broken in the sort of carbon chain that make up a fatty acid. And the problem is, like a fresh polyunsaturated fat, for example, the polyunsaturated fats found in whole foods are really good for you. Like salmon is loaded with polyunsaturated fats. A handful of nuts, you're ingesting tons of polyunsaturated fats. And they're great for you. The two essential fatty acids are both polyunsaturated fats. So, we have to be careful not to demonize these types of fats. But the problem is, as I mentioned, they're very damage prone. And so when you extract them from their original whole food source, i.e., corn, soybeans, what have you,
Okay.
whole corn is perfectly healthy. Soybeans, I eat edamame, whenever given the opportunity in a sushi restaurant, right? It's
Right.
tasty AF. But when you extract the oil from those soybeans using harsh chemical solvents, and then you put it through all these industrial processes, degumming, deodorization, just to name a few, it these fatty acids are exposed essentially to light, to heat, to oxygen, and that's where this chemical degradation process known as oxidation occurs.
Mhm.
And oxidation is really damaging to the oil. Um, there are a number of oxidative byproducts that are created, like aldehydes, which are super dangerous in high
Mhm.
doses. Um, Now, once in a while, if I were ingesting food prepared with some of these oils, would it be of concern to me? Once in a while, no, because the dose makes the poison in this instance.
Okay.
But the problem is that most Americans are just over consuming these fats by like an order of magnitude. We think, based on what the literature says about our Paleolithic ancestors and their diets, that we probably ingested um, like micro amounts of these fats because that's how they show up in whole foods. Like if you look at ruminant animals, like a cow, like a
Mhm.
grass-fed beef, grass finished beef, um, the amount of polyunsaturated fats are actually quite small in comparison to monounsaturated fat and saturated fat. So these are trace amounts essentially. But today we're just over consuming them
Yeah.
because of the preponderance of soybean oil, of grapeseed oil, of corn oil in the modern diet. And so when we're ingesting all these oils that have gone through this processing to create and then are processed further when added to ultra processed packaged foods, and then we buy them to cook with because we're told that they're good for our
Mhm.
cardiovascular systems, and then we heat them up in our kitchens. We leave them in the big jug by the hot stove in
Mhm.
plastic, in clear plastic, exposed to light, and it's there for months. And then
Yeah.
we eat fried foods, right? Fried foods. Restaurant fryers, they don't change the oil every day. I mean,
That's
you
so
would hope that they
gnarly.
would change it between dishes, right?
Right.
But they don't. They don't even change that oil every day.
Yeah.
And so that oil is just being heated and reheated. And this is like the corn oil, the soybean oil.
Yeah.
Um, and so those
Gnarly.
oils are mutating and they're generating all these unhealthy, byproducts of oxidation. They're becoming damaged, and that's what drives this. Or one of the aspects of the modern diet and lifestyle that I think is a causal player in this low grade inflammatory cascade, which so many of us seem to be experiencing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
fresh. You couldn't even get fresh corn oil because just think about like corn. How much oil is in, like, would you consider a corn on the cob an oily food?
No.
But if you were hypothetically to extract
Uh,
oil from a corn on the cob,
yeah.
that probably would be fairly healthful,
Okay.
But just imagine
It's
how
the
much,
process.
yeah, but you wouldn't actually even be able to do that. How many,
Me squishing corn
yeah,
kernels for oil.
how
Max
many,
told me to.
I know that'd be a funny like home experiment. But think about
Yeah.
how many ears of corn you'd have to process to get even a tablespoon of corn oil.
Yeah.
It's insane to think about. So
Interesting.
it's a completely unnatural food. And not
Okay.
that everything is natural is good for you, but just the level of processing, it's so intensive that I would be weary of chronically
Of
ingesting any
chronically doing
of
it.
those fats. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Love an oil conversation. And so Acraham, thanks for asking about palm oil. Long story short, palm oil is different than the canola oil. So not on the like hell no list. Is
Yeah.
that a accurate summary?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. It's on sort of like the gray area list. Like you can find healthier fats. You can find,
Hmm.
fats that are probably more
Right.
sustainably sourced, et
Right.
cetera.
And I feel like you see it on a processed food label. Like at that point, you're eating a processed food. So like
Exactly.
it's
Yeah. Good
the
point.
lesser of two evils, I guess there. Okay, let's move on to I like this question because we're both sipping on some bubbly. By bubbly, I mean sparkling water. And this let's see. Um Glastrowashi. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that. Asked if carbonated water is bad for you or does it like aid in digestion? Um, so confusing
Yeah.
is
Good
what they wrote.
question.
Yeah.
I think it's good for you in the sense that it's hydrating. I don't know if it would help digestion per se. Um, in fact, I try not to drink too many fluids when I'm like around a meal.
Filled you up?
Um, yeah, I also feel like there's really no good like science to back this, but what I've learned, and I don't really know much about Ayurvedic medicine, but they always say like not to dilute your digestive juices.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, yeah, I actually did look into the literature to see if there were any like truth to that. And when you drink water with a meal, it does dilute your stomach acid, but your stomach is very quick to compensate.
Yeah.
But just in general, I think it's like not. It's something that I feel more comfortable just eating the food and like taking small sips of water. I'm not
Yeah.
like I don't
Yeah.
really love to like drink lots of fluids with my food.
I feel like Europeans do that. That could be a massive generalization, but a couple of my friends that like grew up in France don't drink any water with their meals. Like obviously
Interesting.
they've got wine,
Yeah.
but one of my friends just like is like no water at the dinner table. It's just like
Interesting.
not a thing. That could be a massive generalization, but I do like I don't know, I feel like you focus more on your food.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that there's probably some truth to that. I mean, if I'm thirsty, I'll drink some fluid with it. The thing that I would be most concerned with, like, and I'm a big, I love to drink Waterloo, Lacroix, what have you. I mean, if it's
yeah.
sparkling water, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Drinking it out of a can worries me a little bit because I know that the cans are probably either coated with BPA or some analog, some plasticizing compound that probably is an endocrine disruptor that
Great.
you know. But that would be like my primary
Do I
concern.
keep drinking it?
I'm
Obviously.
not I'm not really worried about natural flavors or anything like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I like this question because they bring up digestion. And I feel like digestion is something that like people always ask about is like how do you optimize your digestion and like fiber, where does fiber play a role? Um so what are ways that you have found to like optimize digestion?
digestion. Ooh, such a good topic. So many people are like struggling, I think, when it comes to digesting their food well. A lot of people have GI symptoms and issues when it comes to food. I think a lot of it has to do with people's relationship with food.
Hmm.
Um, and that's just not. I'm not just speaking of like food and calories and body image stuff, but like
Right.
how they like to consume their food.
Right. And digestion starts from like mastication, so from chewing until
Yeah, until it
it
exits.
exits
Yeah,
into the porcelain throne.
yeah. You have there's what's called the cephalic phase of digestion, which basically cephalic it means your head, basically. So you start digesting when food enters
Before.
your head. Yeah. Once you start chewing, you start to release insulin.
Mhm.
Your digestive juices start pumping out in your stomach. You have enzymes in your saliva that begin to break down starches like amylase.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important to slow down and chew your food. Also, your oral bacteria, your oral microbiome is responsible for the conversion of nitrates in produce to the nitric oxide that works to expand our blood vessels and
Mm-hmm.
lower our blood pressure. So if you're chewing really rapidly, foods like dark leafy greens, beets, any vegetable really, you're shortchanging the ability of your food to have a cardioprotective effect. So you really want to slow down. When I'm, especially beets, arugula, these foods are really high in nitrates.
Yeah.
I'm really like taking my time chewing them because I know that oral bacteria are getting to work
That's wild.
transforming those compounds to what ultimately will be nitric oxide that circulates in your blood vessels.
Okay.
Really important for um, for healthy blood pressure, sexual function, like just everything.
What episode was it where we had the guy talk about nitric oxide?
That was Nathan.
We'll link
Oh,
it. But it was
yeah.
a good one. We
Yeah,
haven't
it was a good
gone
one.
back.
What was his name? God, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah.
But that was a really
That
good
was a good
episode.
one about, because he talked about also,
We talked about mouthwash.
yeah.
You want to avoid mouthwash
Yeah. And that he
and
wasn't,
fluoride in your toothpaste.
yeah.
That was an
It
awesome.
was a good episode.
That was an awesome episode.
Um,
I'm a huge fan of nitric oxide.
Because he also talked about not being afraid of like deli meats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a questionable assertion that he made, that we don't have to be. But no,
Mm.
if that's what the science says, I'm all for it, because a lot of these uncured meats. So he basically said, I asked him about the nitrite in cured meats.
Mhm.
So they often will add sodium nitrite to
Right.
cured meats as a preservative. It can help prevent botulism and all kinds of nasty things. So it's
Yeah.
actually, like, from a public health standpoint, it's a really important food processing innovation,
Yeah.
right? But there is a concern that these compounds can convert to what are called nitrosamines,
Mhm.
which are carcinogenic, which have been linked to type 2 diabetes. And so there's this concern about the consumption of sodium nitrite. The truth is, that conversion to nitrosamines are blocked with the addition of vitamin C, which apparently, allegedly, they will
Oh.
often add in small amounts uh, to these meats to prevent
Okay.
that. Um, and also, even in uncured meats, they add sometimes celery powder, which has natural nitrates in
Oh,
it.
interesting.
And yeah, so he basically threw a wrench into that whole thing where, like, the
Mhm.
concern over sodium
Is
nitrite, which I
yeah.
think is, which I'd be happy to, and I still buy, when I buy like deli style
Mhm.
meats to snack on, I will definitely, I look to buy it without
Yeah.
sodium nitrite. But I think that you know if our fear around that chemical is unwarranted, then that's a good thing, because ultimately these foods are really great sources of protein, great
Protein, quick,
snacks, and
easy.
and and healthier snacks, I might add, than a lot of the other stuff that's out
Right.
there
Right.
masquerading as snack food.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we talked about like chewing and that helping aid digestion. Is there anything once you've swallowed
Yeah.
that you can do?
Do I think just like taking a deep breath, taking a few deep breaths, like,
Yeah.
in between bites or even before you sit down, just to like put your body in that parasympathetic
Parasympathetic, yeah.
rest or digest state. That's really important. Andrew Huberman, he was on the podcast a couple of months ago, or maybe
A
even
long
longer at
time
this
ago.
point. Yeah. And he was talking about how the same way that you can take deep breaths to sort of stimulate your
Mhm.
parasympathetic autonomic response,
Yeah.
you can also, there's something that you can do with your eyes as well. If you're sitting at the table and you essentially kind of zoom out and take on sort of like a panoramic gaze as opposed to a more focused gaze,
Yeah.
that can sort of trick your body into entering a parasympathetic state as well. Because if you think about it, an animal with a panoramic gaze, looking out
Yeah.
at a landscape, is not a stressed out animal.
No.
A stressed out animal is hyper focused and hyper vigilant on the source of the danger, right? Of the
Yeah.
threat. Um, so yeah,
That's so cool.
that's an interesting thing too. I mean, I'm sure that the link between that, what he shared, and digestion, hasn't been explored, but I would surmise that if you're sitting down at a table and you kind of just like zoom out, soften your
Mhm.
gaze, take a few deep breaths, it probably is doing a really um it's probably doing
Yeah.
your digestive system favors, in that
It's the, like,
pre-meal
being
state.
present
Yeah.
aspect of, like, noticing things that you skip over in normal day because you're so busy.
Yeah.
So, like, kind of that being present. Do you think those, like, psychological I don't know if you call them hacks, but, like, do you think that's kind of a new wave? Like, I guess there's, like, biohacking and then these, like, psychological things. Is that considered biohacking? I went on a tangent there, but I'm just curious to see, like, that is like the 4-7-8 breathing, like, those things to, like, like, physiologically, psychologically
Yeah.
hack your body. Like, is that different than biohacking?
I think it's sort of in the same realm, but at the end of the day, to me, it's about it seems what it's really trying to do is hack your environment to allow you to get back to a state and a context in with respect to your biology that's more
Yeah.
akin to how it used to be for the vast majority
Okay.
of our evolution. Like
Yeah.
right now, we're so we love to eat on the go at our desks, in
Yes.
our cars while we're driving, while we're watching TV, the
Mhm.
news, which the news stresses you out. So you're already
Yeah.
like if you're eating while you're watching
Yeah.
the 11 o'clock news. Well, first of all, that's
That
too late. That's pretty late to be eating dinner. But yeah, you're eating while your body is
Yeah.
experiencing a fight or flight. So having these kind of facts or whatever, or these biohacks, if you want to call them that,
Yeah.
in your back pocket, I think is just a great way to like to to
Okay.
to hack your environment for better health based on our understanding of our biology.
So cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Just moving down through digestion. The end of digestion, are
Yeah.
there like ways to better that? I always like grew up with the like fiber one bar saga of like, oh, you eat a fiber one bar, it's gonna make you
Go to the bathroom.
yeah. So like are how do you that's a big part of digestion that I feel like people have issues with is
Poop rituals.
poop rituals. Yeah. Normalize talking about poop.
Normalize it.
Um,
Normalize all over it. I
what? Not
I
all over it. Just one spot.
we love the word normalize.
Yeah, there's so many things to
Also
normalize.
with the clappy emoji, like normalize clap
I think
emoji,
that's a
talking
little
clap
sassy.
emoji. Is it?
Yeah, I like normalizing things that like people like are typically taboo to talk about. Like
I agree. I agree.
it's like poop.
Yeah. People need yeah, talking about poop is fun.
Yeah.
Um
I don't know about fun, but
what can I share?
yeah, what are your poop hacks?
I don't know.
Have
I
you ever
mean,
been asked about poop hacks?
well, poop is it's super important. You should always like inspect what comes out of
We've
you.
talked about that.
Yeah, you should always inspect. They have like these like shelves. I think we talked about it in the previous podcast.
Monopod. Yeah.
Yeah,
We talked about poop twice.
I think so.
Cool, cool, cool.
Make sure that you're digesting your food properly. There's like the Bristol, I think it's called,
Mhm.
stool,
Yeah.
whatever.
We
Take a
talked
look at
about
that.
that. There was one of the doctors I scribed with, like, we had a preteen in there, and he, like, pulled up that chart to show like, for her to talk about, and it was so awesome
Yeah,
because like, she was able to, like, verbalize what she was talking about and, like, look at poops on the screen. It
I
was
th-
great.
I think it's super important. Also, we're now in this era where people are like testing their microbiomes. That's a whole separate conversation. But
Yeah.
generally, I think people are because of this exciting new science surrounding the microbiome and all these like private companies that have popped up to kind of capitalize on it. I think that's helped get people more comfortable talking about their
Yeah.
poop and sampling their own stool and things like
What
that.
about helping people poop? Not you
Yeah.
helping people poop, but, like, are there
Hacks.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
something that,
For
like, I've
people
my
for
friends will kill me, but there's it's, like, something we've talked about as, like, a group of girls, of, like, people always talk about pooping problems and, like,
always.
it's, like, big on TikTok where it's, like, hot girls who've got stomach issues.
No way. Is that
Yeah.
a
Oh my
thing on
god,
TikTok?
yes. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh my god. Yes.
I don't know. That's a rabbit
But,
hole that I'm not sure I want to get uh,
um but maybe
roped
the
into.
Gen Z is listening. Hopefully, there are a few of y'all.
Okay. Well, first of all, every toilet in my house has a squatty potty.
Okay.
I think that's super important.
What
Depend.
is the logic? It's the angle that, like, puts
Yeah,
your legs
your
up.
legs should be up. They shouldn't be. Your legs shouldn't be in a 90-degree angle. to your body when you're sitting on the toilet.
Okay.
They should be higher. Your knees should be higher
Higher
than that.
than
Yeah.
your hips.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And this
Yeah.
may be achievable without a squatty potty, depending on the height of your toilet.
Yeah.
I've shared in the past. I had this. This all became abundantly clear to me when I was living in my old apartment, and they had to replace the toilet for some reason. The toilet that had been in that apartment when I moved in was like an old toilet from like when the building was built in the
Okay. And
50s or 60s
okay.
or whatever. And so it was like this like low to the ground toilet. It was very
When
comfortable.
we were smaller humans.
Yeah, when we were
50
smaller
years
humans.
ago.
And then the building had to make all the toilets in the complex American Disabilities Act compliant. So they had to put these really
They're tall toilets.
they're tall toilets. And I wasn't aware of how important it is, the squatting posture over the toilet back when they
Yeah.
did this. So when they switched my toilet out, I was like, okay, great, I have a new toilet. But I noticed that my digestion was really not good after that. Like after they had switched it out, I was like, I didn't feel like I was like eliminating completely. I felt bloated.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel good. And it took me a while actually to figure out that it was the height of the toilet. And we know that when you're sitting, when your legs are parallel to the ground, essentially, it basically there's like it causes a kink in the anorectal angle, which basically makes like efficient, effective elimination
Yeah.
really difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah. Little chutes and ladders.
Yeah. So I then tried to debug the situation by I found like a small piece of furniture and I put it in front of my toilet to like lift my legs, and I found it was like a night and day difference.
Really?
Huge difference. And then immediately after that, I went on Amazon and I just bought the cheapest like squatty potty thing that I could find.
Yeah.
And so they make all different kinds. They make squatty potties that are like really cheap looking in plastic, but they actually have some really fancy bougie looking ones too.
Bougie.
Yeah.
Normalized squatty potties.
Normalized
in
squatty potties.
bathrooms.
Yeah. And I care. Like I have one in every bathroom in the house. So when guests come over, you know, if they need to use it, I'm like, I got your
Favorite place to poop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's important.
Okay. So that's important. Do you have
Mhm.
like a iodine supplement you recommend? Someone said best iodine supplement. And like what's the importance of iodine?
Iodine is really important. It gets taken up into the thyroid and it produces your T4 thyroid hormone, which then gets converted to T3 by selenium-based enzymes.
Okay.
So you need iodine and selenium for good thyroid health.
Okay.
And foods that are high in iodine, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of in the standard American diet, which is one of the reasons why it was mandated by the government some decades ago that salt needed to be iodized to prevent thyroid disorders from, becoming epidemic.
Occurring. Yeah.
And so now it's become sort of an issue because a lot of people are moving away from iodized salt, partially, admittedly, due to the wellness industry having demonized anything processed, right?
Correct.
So that's unfortunate because that's one of those aspects of food processing that I think has been, a net positive for sure.
Yeah.
It's just that the processing sometimes, they have to add like sugar and stuff like that. So if you have access to foods that are high in iodine, like Greek yogurt, I believe is a good source.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey is a good source. Eggs are a great source. Seafoods like shrimp and mollusks and bivalves and things like that, all great sources. Seaweed, I believe kelp is like one of the top sources. But if you don't have access to those foods, or if you don't enjoy those foods, you could also take an iodine supplement. I actually have an iodine supplement, no financial affiliation. It's called Detoxidine. It's available on Amazon. Oh. I'll take a drop or two of those a week just to make sure that
you're getting enough.
Yeah, because I don't use iodized salt. I use I use Redmond salt, which I love, and then I use Maldon flake salt on everything.
That flake salt life.
Yeah, we love that flake salt life, and that's not iodized. So I'm not consuming a lot of iodized salt.
Right.
And I don't eat seaweed on a particularly regular basis. So yeah, so I do think it can be useful to have an iodine supplement around.
You in there mentioned selenium.
Mm-hmm.
Before we recorded today, you were like, maybe I need some selenium, and you reached for
some Brazil nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a top source. They're the top source, I believe, of selenium. You just and all it takes is one or two nuts to get your RDA.
And that's thyroid related, right?
Yeah, selenium is as far as I know, it's more widely used around the body. It's important for it's an antioxidant. It's important for good brain health. But yeah, I think it's primarily known as being important for converting T4 to T3, which is active thyroid hormone.
Love it.
Yeah.
Um, let's. Ooh, I love like just like iodine and all these different aspects of like you want to learn more about what they do in your body.
We just sailing through these questions.
Yeah, I'm putting you. I'll sneak in a couple like
Fun ones.
chill questions.
All right.
Um,
Down.
but how if someone wanted to read up on iodine or selenium or X, Y, and Z, how do you recommend them to read through a science article and kind of know that it's valid, that it's not something biased, paid for, like a solid piece of science?
Yeah. I generally there God, I don't know the exact like URL or anything, but the NIH I believe has
Mhm.
uh like I think every essential micronutrient has some kind of like page at the NIH.gov
I feel like you're right.
that you can go to and get pretty solid information like adequate intake, RDA, where to find these foods, stuff like that. Generally, whenever I search for anything, like in Google, I will type in what it is that I'm searching for, and then I'll put there's this little trick that I use where I'll put site colon nih.gov. So basically, use Google to search within the NIH
Mhm.
for just credible stuff.
Yeah,
It
that's
also searches
helpful.
PubMed and all that, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
what you're getting is not, journalistic like it's not like what you're getting is like the game of telephone. You're getting like the
Right.
primary stuff.
So at this point, I'm just going through the genius foods, but
Yeah.
we've got salmon, eggs, kale, um,
Salmon, eggs, kale,
avocado.
avocado. Uh
Is there anything else that's like in your fridge? And then there's still more brain foods that we're gonna get to, but like anything I'm missing so far that we've talked about that's in your fridge?
in my fridge right now.
Yeah, sparkling
Well,
water doesn't count.
no. You know that I've always got like protein, like good protein sources in my
Yeah.
fridge. I think another nutrient that really doesn't get enough love is vitamin E.
Okay.
Vitamin E is a super important fat soluble
Okay.
antioxidant. It's one of, as you mentioned, like vitamin D is a fat
Mhm.
soluble vitamin that we need. A, E, D, and K are the fat soluble
Okay.
vitamins. So
A, E, D, and K. We should come up with a fun acronym.
a fun acronym, yeah. Jim Quickett.
Yeah.
So vitamin E is really important. It protects fatty structures in the body.
Yeah.
And it's of particular relevance to the brain, of course, because the brain is the fattiest organ in the body, and it's composed of fats that are, you know, they're not just fats, but they're a particular type of fat. We talked about this on the last episode, the last solo episode that we did. They're
Yeah.
polyunsaturated fats, right?
Yes.
They're very delicate, damage prone. Um, so yeah, vitamin E consumption is associated with reduced cognitive aging. So if you want to have a healthy brain, look to foods that have lots of vitamin E in them. I wouldn't necessarily supplement with vitamin E. I would look to
Okay.
foods that have vitamin B because vitamin E also takes multiple forms. There are about 7. Vitamin E is actually a term that represents 7 forms of vitamin E that we
Okay.
just use vitamin E nondescriptly to represent those 7 forms. There's like uh, alpha
Mhm.
tocopherol, gamma tocopherol. There's like all these different
Yeah.
types. But when you find vitamin E in whole natural foods, all of the types generally are in there
Okay.
to varying degrees, and they all serve different kind of roles. Um, and yeah, so for vitamin E, almonds, avocados are also a great source. Anywhere that you find polyunsaturated fats in nature, you're also going to find vitamin E because
Okay.
vitamin E is nature's way of protecting those
The
fats.
fa-
Was that another
y-
mind blown moment for
yeah.
you? Yeah, that's
Okay. So that's
wherever you find polyunsaturated fats or PUFAs, you will
yeah.
also find vitamin E
What
in
did you just
nature.
call me?
A PUFA?
But okay, so where PUFAs are and
Yeah, but the problem
y-
is with ultra processed foods, right? With the kinds of foods
Yeah.
that like Americans are now consuming en masse, we extract those fats and we don't take the vitamin E with them. And that's why these fats become so treacherous, right? Because they're extracted from their whole food source. They're not guarded by the antioxidants that nature has packaged with them to protect
Okay.
them. And that's why they're so treacherous, right? We fry with them, we make ultra
Yeah.
processed foods with them, these polyunsaturated fats that are
Wow, I
usually
didn't
from corn oil, canola oil,
Yeah.
soybean oil.
We talked about those in the last solo, but I didn't really like ask why but it's because they don't have their vitamin E.
Yeah.
Wow. Why
Yeah.
do we know why we don't take the vitamin E with them? I mean, I don't know anything about the oil extraction process
Sometimes they will add a small amount of vitamin E back like in
into
after
it.
the fact.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's still been processed,
If
but
you look at most fish oils, in fact, they usually will include a little bit of vitamin E
okay.
to protect the fats. Yeah, but
Wow.
they'll add them sort of after the fact.
Okay.
But that's why this whole um, there a lot of people are. I think it started with this one physician named Ray Peat. There's a lot of people now who are very afraid of polyunsaturated fats. They
Mhm.
fearmonger these PUFAs, as if they are the sort of smoking gun in the modern chronic non-communicable disease epidemic. But
Yeah.
it's not PUFAs, it's the ultra processed foods.
Right, it's the PUFA without its E.
It's the PUFA without its E. Exactly.
Gotta get
So if you're eating like a handful of almonds or walnuts that are PUFA rich, you have nothing to worry about because those fats are protected. They're in their
Okay.
natural um, they're in their natural state. They're
Yeah.
unadulterated.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
okay.
and vitamin E also, there was a really interesting clinical trial that came out a couple of years ago that showed, interestingly, that high dose vitamin E, I believe it was about 2,000 international units of vitamin E,
Okay.
improved functional capacity in patients with Alzheimer's disease, I believe.
Okay.
And it was a study that led to a lot of, it was a very hopeful study, obviously, because we have so few effective tools in the toolkit to treat these kinds of conditions.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that the effect was large or anything like that, but the fact that a natural substance like this could potentially help people with that
Right.
condition.
So cool.
Yeah. So
And hopeful.
and hopeful. Yeah. So vitamin E is very important.
Okay, so where you mentioned almonds, where else can I like secure vitamin E? Just lock it
Yeah.
in.
Avocados are a
Okay.
great
What
source,
can an avocado do?
right? Avocados
Oh.
they're sort of like the Swiss Army knife
Yeah.
of
I mean, it's a fruit. If I was to be a fruit,
you'd be
it'd
an
be an
avocado,
avocado.
but you'd go bad so quickly. That's one of the
Rude?
those are avocados. I don't know why
No,
I hate that about them, but I love
I
them,
know.
you know. Where else can
Where
you find
else?
vitamin E? You can find vitamin E in grass-fed beef.
Okay.
Grass-fed beef has 3 times the vitamin E of grain-fed beef. So it's another reason why you want to
Wow.
consume
Okay.
primarily grass-fed beef.
Yep. I had a steak last night at dinner that I didn't research the like steakhouse. I was with my mom. And I wasn't planning on having a steak, but I got there and they labeled it as grass fed and finished. And I was like, sold. I was like, I don't know where the salmon's coming from, but I'm eating.
Yeah.
Like it made it, I loved, like, to have that knowledge to make that decision. But then the fact that the restaurant cared enough to like advertise it, it was great.
Yeah,
Cause
for sure.
because I mean, it's worth it. It's worth knowing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So avocado, grass fed beef.
Again, anywhere that you find PUFAs. So salmon would be a great source of vitamin
Okay.
E. Salmon, you also get the added benefit of a compound called astaxanthin, which
Mm,
is another carotenoid, but this is a carotenoid that's found exclusively in seafood because it's
okay.
produced by algae and it accumulates in fish and other seaborne critters that eat algae.
Okay.
So
So oysters? No.
oysters don't contain astaxanthin. No. Flamingos actually are a good source. Flamingos are not
Who's eating a flamingo?
nobody, but flamingos are born white and they become pink
Pink.
because they eat this
So
algae that
shrimp.
contain astaxanthin. Yeah.
Is it
Shrimp is a good source.
shrimp?
Yeah, shrimp and lobster. Astaxanthin is actually bound up by another carotenoid that basically dissolves or denatures when it's cooked, and so that it frees up the astaxanthin, and that's why shrimp and lobster become red only after they're cooked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I like food science is so cool. Just like why that happens.
I forget the name of that other carotenoid. I think it's like cyano something. But
Hmm.
yeah, all good sources of astaxanthin, which is great. It's a very, very powerful antioxidant. It's actually more powerful than vitamin E,
Oh, wow.
which is one reason why I personally supplement with astaxanthin every day. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
'Cause okay.
because I mean, again, I take a big food forward approach,
Yeah.
but I don't eat wild salmon as much as I would like to,
Mhm.
and I certainly don't eat it every single day. And so astaxanthin, I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of, I think, really cool benefits to ingesting astaxanthin on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
So if we're like looking at our plate full of brain healthy foods, but there are going to be gaps.
Yeah,
And to fill those gaps, where like, you fill it with an astaxanthin supplement, maybe a fish oil supplement that we've checked the back. But for the most part, we can get them from Whole Foods. Is that
all of them. All of
all of
them.
them?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it just depends on personal preference. And that's a thing too. I mean, there's some foods that I don't necessarily like to eat or that just,
Okay.
are not commonplace to consume. And so you might want to supplement.
Yeah.
Also, people have different, um, whatever it happens to be, access, for
Yeah.
example,
Totally.
budgetary concerns.
Okay.
People might live in certain, for example, if you are a extremely fair skinned person and you live in a part of the world where the UVB rays are extremely strong, then it might be safer for you to take a vitamin D supplement, for example,
Mhm.
than to spend too much time in the
Time in the
sun,
sun.
for example. I mean, I'm a big proponent of spending time in the sun,
Yeah.
but everybody's different. Some people are very fair skinned, and depending on where you live, burning might become a really, uh,
Risk.
you might be very high risk for burning.
Yeah. So, what else am I missing on my plate or in a supplement? Have we hit them all?
I think that those are, at least off the top of my head,
Yeah.
those are, um, sort of like the basics,
Yeah,
sort of like the foundational,
the starting
level of the
5.
brain health pyramid. Now, of course, we also want to stamp out any kind of nutrient deficiency. So if you are on a restrictive diet for whatever reason, I mean, I think a multivitamin can
Yeah.
be helpful. You want to make sure that you're not vitamin B12 deficient. Also, there are, I mean, every um, essential nutrient plays some role. I mean, iodine plays a role in
Mhm.
brain health. Iron plays a role in brain health. Um, so you want to make sure that you are nutritionally replete, and then on top of that, those are the nutrients in particular that I think play a particularly supportive role of brain
Where
health.
where do carbs fit into brain health? Do they fit in? Are they carbs and like glucose and things like that. Like how do carbs
Yeah,
brain
carbs.
health?
Well, I think we first have to start with the acknowledgement that there's no such thing as an essential carb. You would die without protein. You would die without fat.
Okay.
There is no such requirement for carbs. The amount of carbs that you ought to consume on a daily basis need to be custom tailored to your own
To me.
life. Yeah, to you. Now, certainly, carbs are a category that also include fiber. We know that fiber is generally good for us.
Mhm.
Um, how much, again, that's up to you to decide. We know that when people start eating lots and lots of fiber really quickly, they have serious
Mhm.
digestive upset as a result. So, I'm not one of these like go overboard with your fiber consumption, but we are starting to recognize that the gut microbiome plays a role in good brain health. And I think one of the most well accepted ways of keeping the gut microbiome happy is by eating a diverse array of plant fibers.
Yeah.
Um, and those are carbohydrates.
Okay.
When it
Right.
comes to glucose yielding carbohydrates like
Yeah.
starch, like sugar, I think that all that has to be determined, sort of customized and bespoke to your own lifestyle. So for
Yeah.
me, lately I've been, hitting the gym pretty heavy. I have a higher carb tolerance
Yep.
than somebody who, for example, isn't currently on a weightlifting regimen.
Mhm.
Um, or somebody who is, for example, just largely sedentary. Um, so I think it really it really depends. But generally, the diet that I recommend to people is a lower carbohydrate diet. I think that you should earn your carbs, and the carbs that you do consume should primarily come from whole, minimally processed foods. I'm not a big advocate of grains, even
Hmm.
though I personally do consume them. When I'm eating sushi, I eat white rice on my sushi.
Yep.
I had Indian food the other night, and I had a little bit of basmati rice with it.
Yum.
But to me, it's sort of like I put carbs in the category of being like a treat. For the most part, grains are, to me, I think of them as cattle food. I don't think of them as being a very high quality food. We give them to cows to fatten them up,
Yeah.
right? They're not a particularly nutrient dense food. They're primarily starch, which is basically just chains of glucose that get broken down almost as soon as they pass your lips. Um, and so I tend to reach for foods that are more. I try to fill my plate more with foods that are on the higher in terms of their nutrient density.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So
If you're a bodybuilder with a huge caloric budget, can you have
I could potentially
some
be that.
sugar? You could potentially be that. Yeah, of course. But if
Yeah.
you're, um, if you work a desk job, or if you drive a truck, or if you're just sitting all
Hmm.
day, um, I would be I would dial back the
Wary of the amount of.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you want to try to like earn your carbs, because your
Right.
body has a finite capacity to store them, and that capacity is very limited. You can store carbohydrates, specifically glucose,
Okay.
in your liver, and you can store it in your muscles. Um, and And that storage capacity is very, as I mentioned, limited. You can store
Yeah.
about 100, 125 grams in your liver. You can store, I don't know, 400 grams in the totality of your musculature. But, what I can store is different than what you can store.
Totally.
And so, and if you're sedentary, if you're not utilizing the glucose that's already stored in your muscles,
Hmm.
which is called glycogen when it's stored in your muscles, then where's that excess sugar going to go? It's going to be converted by your liver to fat. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so you just kind of
Okay.
want to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Um, and fat doesn't get a free ride either. I mean, I think it's important to include in your diet an array of healthful fats, minimally processed, unadulterated fats, and maybe even some oils like extra virgin olive oil. I've talked a lot about extra virgin olive oil and how beneficial it can be. Um, but fat fat is even more easily stored as fat as well, and you can
Hmm.
very easily overconsume fat because it's so
Totally.
calorically dense. So we're not like in the business of demonizing carbs.
Yeah. I think
And
that's how you answer that is pretty. Like, it's just like beautiful as far as like it's all dependent on the person. It's all dependent on the day. And like some days might be carb heavy because you went to breakfast with a friend or like you had a heavy workout and like I think it's not consistent.
yeah,
You can be flexible with
yeah,
it.
yeah, like for example, I sometimes will I'll experiment with, I generally like to work out fasted, but sometimes I'll try to titrate up my carb intake before a workout to see if I'm
Yeah.
stronger as a result. And then after that workout, because I know I've depleted my stored glycogen to some degree, I have a buffer, I have a place to dispose of any incoming glucose that I consume
Mhm.
after the workout. Then I'll go and I'll eat like a really, I'll eat like a meal that has a higher concentration of carbs than perhaps would had I had not had that workout.
Yeah.
And so it's all about like kind of personal experimentation. And I'm not concerned about like, because I'm metabolically healthy, I'm not concerned about glucose spikes or anything like that. Um, for me, it's important to use carbohydrates to support my activity levels,
Okay.
um, and my workouts.
Love that.
Yeah.
So I kind of just with like filling your plate with healthy foods and I mean this whole episode's somewhat about like whole foods and brain health. We had a question maybe it was a few weeks ago about like staying healthy in college. And I fully remember the cafeteria at SMU umph. And like it's hard to stay healthy in college. Like is there something that you would take based off of the brain foods? Because again, 20s supposed to be at your cognitive tip top. how do you like encourage that and like make that a priority as you're in college for like all those college
Yeah, I mean, I
listeners?
was broke in college. I had very little money. You wanna focus on nutrient density, and you wanna not spend money on the things that you like discretionary
Okay.
items. Like, I mean, obviously in college, people are
Mac
going to
and
spend money
cheese.
on, yeah, and alcohol.
Alcohol. Mac and cheese and tequila.
um, but no, but in college, I ate a lot of like Greek yogurt, which is very protein dense
Okay.
and satiating. I remember buying a lot of like canned tuna.
You
Uh,
still buy both of those
I
things.
know. I haven't
A lot.
changed all that much. But yeah, I used to buy a lot of canned tuna because it's such a great protein source. I
Yeah.
also bought a lot of whey protein, which I still buy.
You-
Yeah, I haven't really changed. It's true. You're learning something about me.
Creature of habit.
Yeah, very much so. Um, I also, and I'm not recommending this, but I drank a lot of like milk in college.
Did you
They
really?
had, yeah, in college they had these like like soda fountains, but in the in the
Oh,
in the cafeteria it was like a milk fountain. You could just
yeah.
get all, and I just knew that there was protein to be had there,
Okay.
and so I would just drink like I think with every meal I would do like 2 cups, 2 big glasses.
Oh
But I
my
was
God.
I was working out really hard. I was about
I don't
two.
care how hard you're working out to like see a group of guys drinking milk with their, I mean, normalize
It
it.
was
There's nothing wrong with milk, guys.
no, it was weird, but it was actually common. Like when I went to
Really?
school, yeah, because like it's a source of calories and it's a source of very high quality protein. And I'm talking kind of specifically about freshman year. Freshman year, I was really into bodybuilding,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember I think I got to I don't remember exactly how heavy I got. It was between 205 and 215 pounds. Probably not 215. That seems like really it was
That
like
seems
yeah. I think I got to 205 pounds. And
okay.
I was like just as lean as I am now, but I was like lifting a lot, and I was like really like eating lots of protein, eating lots of calories. Now I generally hover between 185 pounds and I think currently I'm about 190 pounds, but I've been eating a
Okay.
lot and I've been working out really hard.
Yeah.
I've been taking creatine, which we know that's another nutrient that,
Water?
drinking lots of water, but creatine
No,
can
no, no.
store water in your
Creatine.
muscles. Yeah.
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 That I
Yeah.
hit the buzzword.
Yeah.
Water. So he knows creatine. Water.
Yeah, I'm
um,
currently taking creatine 5 grams a day, which incidentally is another important nutrient for good brain health.
okay.
Super important.
Holistics Park asks best way, healthiest way to fix up your coffee in the AM.
Hmm.
So this is kind of a two-part question because one, you do occasionally fix up coffee, but two, you stop coffee.
Yeah.
So I want to when we're doing coffee, let's just quickly share Max's coffee.
When I'm doing
When
coffee.
you're doing coffee, and then let's talk about like how you made the brave decision
Yeah.
to
To cut
to cut
to more or less cut coffee
cut
out,
coffee out. Yeah.
or to reframe my relationship with coffee.
Yeah.
I like to put it that way because I would never say never. I still
Mhm.
definitely will want to enjoy a cup of coffee here and there. But I felt like I had to sort of reframe the relationship between me and coffee. And I'll tell you why. But generally, when I make it, and this has evolved over time, but generally now I will brew it with my, what is that? The pour over device.
Mhm.
I was using a French press for a while to make my coffee. The issue with French presses that I shared recently on Instagram is that um, it allows a compound in coffee called cafe stall to make it into your cup. Cafe stall is I believe it's called a diterpene. It's like embedded in the oils that you see when you that float to the surface when you when you make coffee with a French press. It's one of the reasons why French presses, by the way, are so great. They make such great coffee
Yeah.
because your cup is full of all of the natural oils that are embedded in the coffee bean,
Mhm.
right? So it's a very if you love the taste of coffee, French press is without a doubt like the best way to get a rich,
Yeah.
deep cup. Yeah, but it's sort of a double-edged sword because you then also increase the amount of cafe stall in your cup. And cafe stall, speaking of double-edged swords, It's this really interesting compound that has been shown to be really good for glucose regulation. Like it increases insulin sensitivity and glucose uptake into cells. So that's a really good thing. It has properties that can be described as anti-diabetic, right?
Okay.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But then it also has been shown to powerfully elevate LDL cholesterol
Okay.
by reducing the number of the mechanism basically has something to do with reduced availability of the LDL receptor on the liver. And so people who consume French press coffee can see a significant elevation of their LDL cholesterol. Even if their
Interesting.
diet is dialed in and they're drinking French press coffee every day, they'll see like that it's raising their LDL levels. And in general, I'm not anti LDL or anything like that. I think, that it's one of these compounds, like any compound in the body, that, there's a U-shaped curve where there's like a Goldilocks zone where we want to keep it for good health. But I don't think it's wise to uh, cause it to rise, for no good reason.
Yeah.
Because it still is considered a risk factor for
Yeah.
cardiovascular disease
So
if it's
interesting.
unwittingly sort of like being elevated, especially for no reason, due to some sort of xenobiotic, meaning like outside of your body plant compound.
Yeah.
So I no longer brew my coffee with a French press. I use the pour over filter, and I use the pour over brew method, and I use a paper filter. Paper
Love it.
filters absorb nearly all of the cafe stall, so I get that
Yeah.
out of my coffee. I'm genetically probably prone to dyslipidemia, so
Okay.
that's just something that I'm like,
Just helping your body a little bit. Like, let's eliminate that risk.
yeah. I still, eat like
Yeah.
meat. I'm not afraid of saturated fat, anything like that. But it's just any sort of compound that will, for no good reason,
Right.
cause it to rise. Like I think
Yeah.
the benefits of removing that compound, um,
Yeah. Why not?
yeah, outweigh there. I mean, there's no risk to removing it.
Okay.
The coffee tastes just
Right.
generally just as good. Um,
So we're
and
pouring over. We heat the water.
we do a pour over, heat the water to 200 degrees, which is the ideal water temperature, 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
I have an instant read thermometer that I check the water temperature, make sure it's 200 degrees, pour it over
Do I tell them about how you used to heat water up in a saucepan?
in a saucepan. I don't see anything wrong with that. Look, we're not all as bougie as you, okay?
I love a good electric kettle, maybe a normal kettle for the stove, but
Saucepan.
saucepan.
So I heat it up 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I pour it over coffee beans. And generally, I like dark brew,
Okay.
dark roast coffee, and so I'll pour it over
And you
that.
drink it black.
For the most part, I drink it black. I like to, you know, I think like the bulletproof coffee thing, butter and coffee, tastes so good. But, I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do that. I also feel like it's coffee's good with like cream in it.
I
Just
love a
cream?
splash. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just cream.
Yeah. I mean, or like, yeah, just cream. Maybe half and half.
Something really interesting about cream versus butter. So butter is just churned cream, right? So
I don't know if I knew that.
yeah, butter is just churned.
Out of all the things we've talked about, I don't know if I knew that.
It is. And same fatty acid composition, right?
Okay.
Like same macronutrient profile.
Okay.
But it's interesting, right? That butter, if you put butter in coffee, it sits at the top. Cream disperses
Throughout.
fully throughout.
Yeah.
Cream has something in it called milk fat globule membrane, which is completely removed by the churning process.
Okay.
That is,
The things that are stored in your brain.
yeah.
Okay. No, I need to know. I'm
Yeah.
curious. Okay.
It's called being a nerd.
No,
Welcome to my
I
world.
support it.
So butter has been shown to actually have also, and again, I'm not fear mongering here. I completely love butter and use it and whatever, but I think the overconsumption of butter it can lead to an
Mhm.
undue elevation of lipids. Now, if you're just consuming a tablespoon a day, whatever, no harm, no foul, right? All good.
Right.
But it is interesting to note that there is a differential effect, cream versus butter. Cream won't cause your your LDL to increase, but
Really?
butter will.
Wow.
And it's
So
thought that the milk fat globule membrane, which is like this encapsulation of the butter fat in phospholipids
yeah.
and proteins and other compounds, actually prevent the actually make the fat in dairy healthful.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like this mechanistic it's a potential mechanistic explanation for
Yeah.
why observationally we always see that full fat dairy is associated with better cardiovascular health outcomes.
I like dairy and my like it I'm fortunate where it doesn't bother me. That's a personal thing, but I think dairy in doses is good. So that's interesting. So why didn't next time we have Dave Asprey on, I want to ask why he didn't do
Cream.
cream and why he went for butter.
I don't know if he would want to answer that question.
Do we come out with a
We could ask him.
competitor product with cream?
We could ask him. I mean, look, I'll put butter on.
I mean, I love butter.
I love butter too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But in coffee, why would you go for the butter versus the cream?
well, for one, butter, yeah, and you're also creating this extra step, right? Because you got
Yeah,
to
I
blend
don't
it.
so I don't
No, I don't know.
hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean, look, it tastes good.
Watch out, Dave.
It tastes really good. But
Okay.
yeah, here's the thing: if you are, so this is all context. Everything is so context
True.
dependent, right? If you're somebody who, you have an elevated like LDL particle count
Mhm.
or even LDLC, and you're putting butter in your coffee every day that you brew from a French press, I would say that's probably not the best idea. Brew your coffee because this is something that you do chronically every day, right? I
Right.
would say, use a paper filter in your coffee and switch from butter to cream,
Yeah.
which it'll be just as delicious, right?
Right.
But you're not going to have the same effect on your
Interesting.
LDL. For me, I'm somebody like I'm metabolically healthy. I, my lipids are all seemingly great, right?
Yeah.
Um, will enjoy butter, on occasion, but it's not something that like I'm just like slamming every day.
Slamming butter.
Yeah.
Wild
Um,
over here.
but wait, we should talk about so the
Let's
the coffee,
yeah, let's talk about
my relationship
your
with coffee.
relationship with coffee.
Yeah. I look, coffee's amazing. I love the way it tastes, right? And and I've consumed it regularly for many, many, many years. I would wake up and I would go rush to like either my kitchen to make it or if I was out traveling to the local coffee shop. But I find that drinking it every day, you build a tolerance very fast to
Mhm.
caffeine. It takes just about 3 days to build a tolerance, to start building a tolerance
Yeah.
to caffeine. And I find that the performance boost, whatever subjective performance boost I was getting every morning by drinking coffee, I wasn't really boosting my performance at all. I was just getting my performance back to baseline because I
Right.
was having to treat my withdrawal from the caffeine that I consumed yesterday and the day before and the day before.
Mhm.
And so I don't like that dependency feeling. And I also started to feel like like it wasn't doing my like adrenals any favors. Like I would drink it in the morning and I would feel exhausted in the afternoon. Like I would have these really uneven energy levels and I would need more caffeine to bring my energy back up
Yeah.
to what I felt like should be. I mean, in the middle of the day, I should have energy.
Right.
I'm metabolically healthy. I'm not like eating lots of like refined grains, so
Yeah.
it's not my blood sugar.
Yeah.
So what could it be? And what it made me realize is that when you consume caffeine, you're not creating energy from thin air. You're borrowing it from later, and so
Yeah.
and you've got to pay back, right? So I've been experimenting with these hiatuses from caffeine, and I just I feel so much better without it. I miss it, like,
Yeah.
because I love the taste of it, but I find that my energy levels are so much more consistent without it, and
So interesting.
yeah, and it just takes me about 3-4 days to feel like I'm over the hump of the lethargy, and
Yeah.
and then I'm good to go, and then you reorient your morning
Yeah, I
routine
was gonna ask
really.
how because that I think is important to people. Like my I coffee is like for sure just a routine thing. It's like I wake up, drink water, coffee. Like it's like
Yeah,
how I like to start my morning. So like I feel like that would be harder for me to quit than like the actual
yeah,
caffeine, if that makes sense. Like quit the routine versus so like how have you filled that space?
that space. I've just, I'll eat something instead, or
Okay.
I'll drink some tea or
Okay.
whatever. A lot of people like shilajit, which is like this mineral pitch, black
What?
tar flavored stuff that you can put in hot water. Some people feel that it gives them sort of a buzz.
Okay.
So
So
that's an
it's
option.
but it's caffeine versus like would you pick up a matcha? Like do we like how do we differentiate caffeine versus coffee?
I would do I mean, matcha's not bad. I think it's really worthwhile getting off of caffeine.
It's the caffeine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's and then you could bring it back. The thing is, caffeine is a psychoactive drug. We don't treat it as such. We treat it almost
No.
like it's a vitamin, like we need it,
Yeah, it's like a supplement.
right? But it's not. It's a
Yeah.
psychoactive drug, and I think everybody listening to this, we all ought to at least once, try to reframe that habit, because it's like any drug, you get that initial high and it's amazing, and then you spend your life trying to get
Right.
that same high that you felt.
Uh-huh.
And that's totally the case with coffee.
Yeah.
Totally the case with coffee. So now that I'm off of it, I'll go and I'll enjoy like an espresso shot, and I'll feel like this insane euphoria from it that I just,
Wow.
yeah, that like I haven't felt in years, right? Because I've been a chronic coffee consumer for years, or matcha, and I'll get the same
Yeah.
euphoric feeling. So it's just so much.
Interesting.
It's such a better way to
Yeah.
relate to coffee, I think, to do it that way than to like have it be this thing that you're just like dependent on. And now, and also, you know how
Uh-oh.
when no, it's really funny. Like a lot of people say that they'll stop drinking after they end up going to a bar sober, and they see how people act when they're drunk.
Yeah.
People just
Yeah.
act like idiots when they're drunk.
Yeah.
This is maybe a little judgmental, but like
I'm so intrigued with where this is going.
when I go to the airport now in the mornings and I walk past like the coffee shops and I see people lined up like at 6 in the morning to
Yeah.
get their coffee, and the line is like, why would you wait on this line? It's literally like the length of a football field, right?
Yeah.
They look like zombies. And I'm just like, and I used to be on that
Yeah.
line too, but now I'm just so grateful that I don't feel like I need
Wow.
to be on that
Yeah, I would
on that line
definitely
anymore. You'd be on the line.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Power to you if you love your coffee. Look, I'm not
No,
passing
no,
any
no, no,
judgment.
no. Yeah.
Coffee's great. It's one of the most popular beverages in the world for a reason. It's full of polyphenols, and it's even a source of soluble
Yeah.
fiber, which is good for the gut. Boosts ketone. Coffee's great. There are all these benefits. From an evidence standpoint, observationally, people who drink coffee seem to have better health outcomes.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on it, but I just think that from a neuropsychological standpoint,
Yeah.
and from an adrenal standpoint, you owe it to yourself to see what you're like without it.
Nope.
No.
See what? Nope.
Next.
Next. No, maybe. Never say never. And I love switching up a routine. Like sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do, and that's an easy thing to do that like you don't want to do.
Yeah. Fair.
But I think there were a couple other questions that I wanted to get to, but we chatted a lot about those big topics. You want to do one more?
Let's do it.
One more? Okay. This kind of goes into transitions. From like coffee, we love a good afternoon coffee run. More just for like a good work break. But like coffee late in the afternoon leading to sleep hygiene. So like what like that's like kind of the first thing you eliminate when you're trying to get good sleep. So like what else do you do to get good sleep and to make sure that your sleep hygiene is like A plus?
A plus.
Yeah.
Man, so many. Well, I think the good sleep begins in the morning, making sure that when you wake up, you're by either a large window or you're able to go outside
Mhm.
and allow some bright light into your eyeballs. That helps to anchor your circadian rhythm, which is going to
Okay.
help you out at the end of the day, right? Because it basically sets forth this 24-hour timer that dictates your awakeness and alertness during the day, but also your sleepiness
Yeah.
in the latter half of the day. So I think that's really important. Over the course of the day, making sure that you're staying active and that you're getting exercise. This builds up what's called sleep pressure.
Mhm.
That's really important. I sleep best on a day that I know that I've been out all day, that I've been active, that I've worked out.
Mhm.
You don't have to go to a gym necessarily, but just, to be active.
Yeah.
Um, and then winding down at night, I think it's pretty important to be mindful of the kind of light that you allow to enter your eyes in the latter half of the day. If you come up to my my bedroom um, in the 2-3 hours before bed, like I don't have any overhead lights on. I'm not using the lights, the switches in my wall.
Yeah.
I have a lamp by my bed that I have a red light bulb in. It sounds
Okay.
it makes my bedroom look like a strip club, honestly, but it's
Okay.
it's for a purpose.
Sure.
It's that red light is very
Yeah.
it's not going to perturb your natural circadian.
I feel like I remember you telling me about this with Aaron Alexander. Is he
Yeah.
the one that brought that up in the old
He
how
did. He
yeah.
he kind of made fun of me because my lights they
Where
weren't even super bright, but they were
yeah,
just like
'cause
my lights.
yeah.
He was like, "Bro, he's like, what are you doing
We
to
gotta
your?"
change the vibes up in here.
Yeah. So I bought a bunch of salt lamps.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of
Love a
salt
salt
lamps,
lamp.
which are super amber colored,
Mhm.
eye level. You don't have to buy salt lamps, but I think they look great. Um, just having them around the house. So I have a bunch of salt lamps around, and I bought a few night lights from Home Depot. Actually, they're night lights where you can change the color.
Okay.
And so I bought these night lights that I'll keep around that are very warm, like candle light, like amber colored. They
Yeah.
emit an amber colored light. And so between the night lights and the salt lamps, those are the only lights that I have on in my bedroom and in my bathroom at night. I'm not
Okay.
putting on the overhead light. And that helps me. It helps it helps me wind down.
Yeah.
It's really soothing on the eyes. It doesn't screw up my brain's natural like melatonin release.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, so that's really important. I also have my iPhone set to night shift mode, but even better than night shift, you can go into the accessibility options in your night
Mhm.
phone, and you can apply a color filter that turns your whole phone essentially red.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, it's even more intense. Here, I'll show you.
Okay.
You can set a shortcut so that if you click the side button 3 times, it becomes red. Have you seen that?
Whoa.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
just show the YouTube here. So this is
It's
like,
red.
yeah, this is normal, and that's red. Boom.
Boom.
So
Nighttime
I keep it super red,
vibes.
red vibes.
Okay.
And trying not to look at my phone too much, but I'm human, so I do more
Yeah.
than I'd like. But when it's in red mode, all good. Uh, and then I close my curtains, and my Uller automatically goes on. Shout out to Chili Sleep. I love my Uller.
Mhm.
Um, and that keeps my bed cool and comfy because I'm a hot sleeper. And then I've talked about this before. People think I'm a freak, but I sleep with 4 pillows. So I sleep with 2 pillows on each side of me, and then I sleep with one over my head, one under my head, and one over my head. And I create like a little sleep fort for myself.
Speaking of exercise and, like, fitness, do you ever go through, like, lulls of where, like, you don't wanna exercise? And if you do feel like you don't wanna exercise, how do you get yourself out of that lull, "I don't wanna exercise" hole?
I just force myself generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
there's a quote like motivation. It's
Mm.
either motivation or inspiration are for
It's
amateurs. Basically, like the pros, whether or not they have that motivation, that's where discipline kicks in, and you just get yourself up and you go to the
and you
gym,
go.
whether it's practice for whatever it is that you're trying, whatever your craft is, fitness, your diet. Discipline is really
Yeah.
the secret sauce.
Yeah. There's a quote once that was like, "I have never regretted a workout, I've regretted not working out,"
Love that.
which I, like, find true. I don't love regrets, but, like, you get yourself there, and once you're there, there's never a regret.
Is that
So
is that what you use like on days that you're not feeling it?
probably. I love the routine of it, and just, like, structuring my day around it because it's kind of both you time and time for your mind and your body. Big old routine gal, but, when I don't feel like doing it, I just start off with like, I'll go for a walk, and that 10-minute walk can turn into like a 30-minute walk. Because once you get out that door, I find that it's so much easier to keep going than,
Yeah.
but is boxing nowadays like your favorite form of exercise, would you say?
It's definitely up there, but no, it's not my favorite is still just like hitting the weight room and
Okay.
throwing around some weights. Yeah.
Okay.
I just
Throwing around some weights.
throwing around
Sounds
some weights.
very
Yeah. I've always just loved that.
Okay.
That's my go-to.
Okay. Post-workout, what are we eating?
There used to be this concept of the anabolic window, which I think has been largely falsified, particularly if you're in a fed state. You know, if you had breakfast and you have circulating amino acids already, then you don't really
Mhm.
need to rush to get protein. But I enjoy, for the most part, a fasted workout. And so afterwards, you know, I am sort of like hustling to go and get like, you know, a good 30 to 40 grams of protein in my system, usually from animal sources.
Perfect. Love that.
Yeah.
Are we gonna build a sauna?
Oh man,
Like,
an official Genius Life sauna.
yeah,
Well, we used to have one at the old
I
place.
know we did.
My favorite sauna, I mean, honestly, and if you guys are using this to determine which saunas you should use, you know, the best sauna is the one that you have access to. So,
Love that answer.
yeah. Personally, I have had great sweat sessions in infrared saunas, but I also really love hot Finnish traditional sauna. And I routinely these days because I have access to a hot Finnish sauna, that's what I'm doing for the most part. I try to do it 5-6 days a week. So yeah, those are whatever sauna you have access to, I think is the best because really the mechanism is like heat stress. So whether you're sitting in an infrared sauna and you're getting to the point of discomfort because you're sweating so much, or you have access to a more traditional one, or you don't have access to any sauna, and a couple times a week you put on a sweater and you go outside and maybe you know do some exercise and allow your body to like heat up a little bit. Um, you know, conceivably the same benefits would apply.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. I don't have a sauna, but I like that feeling, but I don't know how to. But like if I put on a sweater and go hike Runyon,
Yeah, when you hike Runyon Canyon in LA and it's a 90-degree day and you're hustling up the mountain and you're sweating and it's super hot. I mean, you're activating many, you know, if not
so
all of the
that's heat
same
stress
mechanisms. Yeah.
as like sitting in
Yeah.
a dry sauna.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's good
mean,
to know. I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. You're activating heat shock proteins, you're sweating. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some unique benefits to sitting in a sauna, but I would say, you know, it's splitting hairs at that point. Like if you're exercise, if you're like, for example, hot yoga.
I was gonna ask about hot yoga because there's some debate about hot yoga. Just like, should you put your body through that intense heat stress?
I mean,
Maybe a few years ago, that like Bikram yoga
yeah,
was like of debate, but I love a hot yoga class. Not all the time, but that feeling when you get out, pretty
I
pretty
personally would
sweet.
rather. I like to sort of segregate my exercise
Hmm.
from the heat stress.
Yeah,
You know, I'd much rather endure heat, especially extreme heat, while sitting because it's already a stress on the body. So you're compounding
fair,
stress when you're doing hot yoga. And I think that you've got to be in pretty good shape and you've got to be able to listen to your body, you know, at that point, if
totally.
you're doing that. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
so yeah, hot yoga is not my favorite thing to do.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's just like, it's too much. You
Yeah.
don't need to endure that to get the benefits of it. You know, like there are, and also it's not as evidence based as the recommendation to sit in a sauna. I mean, they're doing crazy research
True.
now at University of Eastern Finland showing us that just sitting in a sauna is associated with remarkable health benefits. So
Um.
that kind of data doesn't exist to my knowledge for hot yoga.
Okay. Another Sid Rogue question. When so you get an ice bath, and those are like there are techniques to like adjust and become comfortable, quote unquote, within that ice bath. Do you have those same kind of techniques to do when you're like in a hot sauna, slightly uncomfortable? Like, are there breathing techniques that you should do in a sauna, or no? Does it work that
Um,
way?
no, I don't really try to. I just try to breathe
Just
like
that.
normally and to not, you know, not breathe too fast, not breathe too slow. Just just
Okay.
kind of be just to be normal and to
To
put
be normal.
to breathe normally and to although sitting in a cold plunge I do tend to, the inclination is to breathe really rapidly.
Right.
So I try to, I guess I make a conscious decision to kind of slow my
To
breath. It's
Okay.
actually quite easy for me to hold my breath for like 10-15 second intervals when I'm in
In
a cold plunge,
cold
but I
plunge?
wouldn't do that um in a sauna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it less oxidative stress? Is that
Um
why or no? I don't know if there's an answer or if that's a real question. I
no, I mean
just
I think that when you're sitting in cold water, there's just a marked, like, the stress response, I think, is just a lot more it's like a lot more pronounced.
Okay.
Like your body enters a fight or flight. Like as soon as you
More
get
than in the
into
sauna.
as soon as you get into water that's 40 degrees.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
like
done it once. I don't
like
wouldn't like to do it again.
you just know, and then also like the mammalian diving response kicks
Mhm.
in, and yeah, your body starts to freak out.
Yeah.
I don't think that is
As engaged when you
when you're sitting in a
hop in
sauna.
that
Yeah.
sauna. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like the sauna hats?
Oh man. They're so nerdy.
An 11.
They're so dorky, but they work really well. Sauna hats, they keep your head cool. They protect your hair,
Yeah.
but they also they let you endure the heat longer when you have a sauna hat on. They're made of wool. They just basically, like, they keep your head cool while the rest of your body, just schwitzes.
Schwitzes.
Yeah.
Dita Emiri 7 wants to know your favorite type of ice cream.
Oh my God, my favorite type of ice cream?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because you like ice cream,
I like
correct?
ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some. Geez, I don't have a favorite. I mean, here's the thing. When I buy ice cream, I tend to buy, I believe it's like So Delicious. Maybe that's the brand.
The soy.
It's not soy, it's coconut,
Coconut.
and it's no sugar added.
Okay.
It's like the no sugar added one. They have
Okay.
it at Whole Foods. But the problem with that is it's loaded with like this chicory root fiber stuff,
Ugh.
which if you eat too much of it, it's like bloat city. So you got to be really careful.
Okay.
Um,
But what about flavor? Let's ice
Flavor,
brand's
flavor.
great. We love ice cream brands. But yeah, flavor.
Yeah, I'm a vanilla guy, not into chocolate. I like vanilla, maybe some pistachio, or like
Okay.
I had a honeycomb flavored ice cream the other day that was really good from Van
I
Leeuwen's.
was gonna say the Van Leeuwen honeycomb.
Van Leeuwen's is pretty good.
Delicious.
But no, just in general, I think, like, if given the choice, I would probably default to vanilla. Vanilla.
You're wild.
I like I'll eat like a chocolate bar, but I'm not really into chocolate ice cream or chocolate protein shakes or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, you were like, vanilla.
Vanilla, yeah.
Wow.
With
You're
sprinkles.
really fun.
With sprinkles. Oh my God. What about you?
Ooh, do love the honeycomb. I tend to not do a non-dairy ice cream. If I'm gonna go ice cream, I can do the dairy.
Mm-hmm.
So I love like a Jenny's Brambleberry, like kind of the fruity but like savory a little bit.
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever had Jenny's Brambleberry, but it's like a blueberry cobbler and an ice cream.
Hmm.
Which cobbler might be a southern thing. I was gonna ask you if you've ever had cobbler.
No. Well, another thing about me is I definitely don't like fruit anywhere near my ice
Ice
cream.
cream?
Yeah. Like strawberry ice cream.
I wouldn't do strawberry ice cream.
Gross.
Yeah.
Or
Fair.
I like my desserts not fruity. I like my desserts like cinnamon, chocolate, vanilla, caramel.
Okay. Classic.
Like, how
Ugh.
would you describe those flavors compared to fruity? I just don't like
Don't get out much.
I like fruit, maybe. I like fruit to be fruit. And then I like my dessert stuff to be not fruit
I'm
flavored.
gonna respectfully disagree.
Disagree? Okay.
Because you've got fruit, delicious,
Yeah.
sweets. There's nothing better than like a fresh cream with some like really good berries, maybe like a little mint.
Well, that's fair, but then they're whole berries. It's not like berry flavored cream or anything like that, you know?
Fair. Okay, we're not mixing.
Whole berries.
We'll keep things separate.
I don't think it makes a huge difference in terms of when you take it, but glycine is one of the building blocks of collagen.
Mm-hmm.
And there have also been studies that have shown that taking glycine prior to bed can increase sleep quality. And so in those studies, they take glycine prior to bed. So just, as a sleep aid, I think it could be beneficial from that angle. But we know that your body is like repairing itself when we sleep. When you sleep, that's when you get the greatest, pulse of growth hormone, which helps to
Right.
promote, the growth and repair of connective tissue, um, joints, hair, skin, nails, things like that. And so, conceivably, you would want the building blocks of collagen to be around when that occurs. Just speculating, but
Yeah.
that's when I would probably choose to take it. But if you take it in the morning, like I'll sometimes mix when I'm drinking coffee. I'll mix collagen into my coffee, um, which collagen is 1/3 glycine, so you're getting some glycine when you take collagen. So yeah, I don't think it matters that much. But from a sleep quality improvement standpoint, if you're trying to improve, if you're taking it for joint health and stuff like that, I probably would want to take it at night.
Speaking of like taking a supplement at night, it helping sleep, makes me think of magnesium.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on like when to take magnesium? Because aren't there a few studies that talk about like magnesium helping
With
with
sleep,
sleep?
yeah. I think that the studies that I've seen, because I've definitely looked at those studies, they don't necessarily take them prior to bedtime. I
Okay.
think you just want to make sure that you're getting adequate magnesium,
Okay.
and that will help boost sleep quality. I don't necessarily think that you have to take it prior to
So
bed.
it's not like a melatonin or something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and who
Interesting.
knows? There might be
Yeah, I don't know.
there might be a reason to take it at night, but the studies that I've seen with magnesium, it's just a daily supplement. I don't recall that they
Okay.
uh, made the subjects take them prior to bed.
Yeah, I went rogue there.
And half of people don't consume adequate magnesium. So if you're not consuming the adequate amount of magnesium that your body needs, magnesium is required for hundreds of enzymatic processes in the body. So I'm sure some of those processes are involved in regulating uh, you know our diurnal sleep related processes. So
Okay. I love magnesium. I think
yeah.
it's one of my favorite. Connor T. Stewart asks, what food supplements do you bring with you when you travel?
Ooh, good question. I'm actually traveling next week, and I've already started to think about what I'm going to bring with me. Generally, I try not to bring that much. I'll throw some protein. Generally, I try to bring foods with me, like snacks.
Okay.
Like I'll bring protein bars.
Sardines.
Sometimes I'll travel with sardines, beef jerky, because you don't want to get stuck at the airport starving,
No.
and have to rely on their overpriced,
Right.
super meager snack selection. So I think it's always smart to travel with food.
Yes.
It's sort of like meal prepping, but like,
Yeah.
relevant to travel.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to supplements, I mean, typically I'll bring fish oil with me. Magnesium is super important, so I'll try to bring magnesium with me. If I'm going to a place where I know that I'm going to be getting a lot of sun, I bring my astaxanthin with me because astaxanthin can help protect your skin um, from the sun's rays, from oxidative stress due to excessive sun exposure. Um, what else? Uh, I've been bringing like Live On Labs packets, like
Mm-hmm.
glutathione, with me because sometimes when you're sitting on the jet runway, you're inhaling all kinds of like jet fumes. So, I'll just pop some extra glutathione just for like added insurance. Um, Whoever I'm sitting next to
Yep. Mm-hmm.
definitely doesn't appreciate when I do that because
Yeah.
their supplements, those supplements smell really bad.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
you
after
got to do what
like
you
the
got to do.
fourth one, like after you've tried the glutathione 4 times, like you could do it. Like a
Yeah. You just have to you got to wash your mouth out to really rinse your mouth because I mean, it's not good. It's like,
the benefits though outweigh
yeah.
the
Glu-
liposomal.
Because glutathione contains a lot of sulfur. And so that's what it is. It's like,
We all circle back to eggs.
yeah, it's really gnarly. I think I made you try
Yes. Made.
and you squeezed it into your mouth. Is that how you took it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hardcore. We don't
Pretty
I
gnarly.
didn't like mix it in anything. Yeah, it's super gnarly.
But shout out to Live On Labs.
Yeah, we love them. We did the B complex the other day while we were working.
We did. Yeah.
I like
Um,
that one.
yeah, I'll take a B complex with me sometimes. Um, What else?
So
Yeah, I mean, my supplement, generally like protein, some kind of protein. I don't like to when traveling. Food procurement is like the biggest question
yeah,
mark, and so I want to make sure that I'm getting like on a day to day basis. Like, I think my big picture priority is making sure that I'm getting enough protein.
yeah. I feel that way too when like I travel and like, traveling's a little anxiety provoking and like part of like what am I going to eat can also be contributing to that anxiety that like if I pack snacks, it helps relinquish some of that travel anxiety just knowing I'm going to have
Yeah,
something nourishing versus wandering around the news week daily whatever store that is looking for
Hudson News.
Hudson News
Yeah,
looking for unsalted nuts because
I
I'm
went
lots
to.
of fun.
Yeah, nuts are like a double edged sword because
Ooh,
obviously.
let's go into let's go into
Let's go
nuts.
into nuts. I feel like we had a question or two about nuts. No, we'll find them.
We were so organized with like our highlighting and
Yeah.
we've just had a lot of fun with this. But let's
Nuts are incredibly healthy. They're also one of the most calorie dense foods that are available to the modern human. So, I just suggest moderation when consuming them. But I think one of the biggest potential traps when traveling is to, you go and buy a huge bag of nuts. And when I'm sitting on an airplane bored, like I can easily go through any size bag, any number of servings of nuts,
all the
because I'm
nuts.
just shoveling them into my face. And
Not even your mouth.
no, just my
This is the whole
yeah, yeah. I like how descriptive that sounds because it really is true. It's like you're
Yeah.
just eating mindlessly when you're on an
Yes.
airplane, and with a bag of nuts, you can easily consume 1,100 calories just sitting on your butt, shoveling them into your face.
Yeah.
And again, nuts are very healthy. They're loaded with micronutrients, healthy fats, and things like that. But you just want to be careful. That's why when I eat nuts lately, if with Brazil nuts, I'll pop like two or three,
Pop them.
here and there just to support thyroid health. But generally with nuts, I'm not eating them out of the bag anymore. I use them for like in recipes where there's like
Hmm.
a portion
I
control
was gonna
element.
say portion. I mean, that's kind of with any kind of snacky food though. That's like by the handful. It's like it's so easy to overindulge in it. Like
Yeah.
even popcorn. It's like little harm, no foul, but like you still can shove your whole face with it.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I mean, no, I'll go to town. Like it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about communicating to people how food has been shown to affect their behavior is because I feel like I'm a textbook example of somebody who, like, when I open the bag of something that to me is delicious, it takes like real mental muscle to
Yeah.
stop. And especially if I'm just sitting down on a couch watching TV, if
Hmm.
I'm distracted. Like the other day, I bought Real World Story here. I was like playing because me and my brothers we learned how to play poker over the past year, and we love to play it with one another. It's like really fun. I bought a bag of like paleo pretzels,
Yeah.
and I was just like, because I was so immersed in the game, I was just like eating them. I was like, while I was chewing one pretzel, I was already thinking about the joy that I was going to derive from the next one that I was going to put in my
Yeah.
mouth. I wasn't even conscious of the pretzel that was currently in
You
my
weren't
mouth.
present.
I wasn't
Yeah.
present. Yeah, just thinking about like, just give me more.
Hmm.
And I went through the whole bag by myself. Yeah,
Okay.
the whole bag. I whole bagged it.
You whole bagged it.
I whole bagged it.
Yeah. Which happens. And there should be no regret or
I regretted it.
there shouldn't be though. I mean, it
No.
happens.
Yeah, no shame.
Yeah,
No.
no shame. Maybe that's better than no regret. So
Yeah.
how do you we'll get psychological here. How do you talk to yourself after you've done that? Because I feel like that's something a lot of people like you go to a baseball game, you eat like I don't know, you eat something that potentially you regret.
Yeah.
What's your like inner dialogue there? How do you
Um. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say like, it's like you're not going to say I didn't regret like
right.
eating
I
that
guess
whole
that's
bag of, like I didn't intend when I opened the bag to be the only one eating them, and whoops, like
first off, you didn't share.
because
Sharing is
they weren't taking any.
mhm.
I was like, here, anybody want pretzels? Anybody want? I was like trying to give it away to
We'll fact
everybody else
check that.
that I was like playing with, and I swear to God, but nobody took any,
Yeah.
and so they ended up staying by me, and I ended up eating the whole bag. So it's did I regret it? I mean, yeah, but you just like but it's fine. You can regret something and also know it's fine.
Totally.
So that's kind
And I
of how
love
I
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's like kind of how I
You can
approach
regret
those
something, but
things.
not dwell on it.
Yeah, like we're going back to the ice cream conversation. Sometimes, when I'm sitting with my brothers and I
Yeah.
know that there's like nobody else around, well, like I'll overindulge on the ice cream and then my stomach starts to feel really bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, why did I
You
knew
guys
that
have
was
got to
going
get out.
yeah, pretty much. I'm going to need to quarantine myself for a different reason. Um, but yeah, like your stomach hurts. You knew not to do that going into that experience, but
Yep.
you did it anyway.
Yep.
And so it's totally fine to have a regret.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in this like no regrets
Yeah.
sort of philosophy. Like
It's probably not practical.
yeah, and also like it undermines like learning.
Totally.
I think that the more times you do something like that,
Yeah.
the more ingrained the response becomes, and so maybe not to do it next time, or you do it less, you do it fewer times.
Yeah.
So now I'm a lot more careful and whatever, but
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I think you just have to know that it's like fine. There's no shame, there's no judgment. There's like one of my favorite sort of mantras is like if you have a meal or if you do something or if you fall off the bandwagon or you miss a week or a month of exercise, like you can always turn it back around.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can always
Yep.
turn things around. Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.
So you can go days without any glucose at all, and the body will make glucose from that glycerol and won't need to cannibalize muscle tissue the way it would in somebody who is not fat adapted and keto adapted.